About ready to get started. Welcome back to Zoom. We'll begin and ask Coach Smart just for a general brief comments, overview of the scrimmage, and then we'll go to the questions. Coach Smart.
I thought it was warm today, which was great. We needed it to be. It was not as hot last week, so I thought the temperature allowed us to play through and push. I did not think we maybe started with as much energy during practice as we did last week, but we did sustain better and had good ebbs and flows. Offense made some plays and some situational stuff. Defense made some plays. I was pleased with the overall effort and very pleased with the toughness we kind of had in camp. And at this point, we'll be moving forward towards getting prepared for some future opponents and then start on Oregon.
All right, let's take the first question from Anthony Dasher, and then we'll go to Jordan Hill.
Hey, Coach, good to see you today. How would you describe Eric Gilbert's progression so far in camp?
Rick's done a really good job. He's been tough. He's understood his assignments. Spring, he got thrust into things a whole lot more in terms of number of reps and volume of reps, and with the other guys being healthy and Delp being further along, he's been able to take a good bit of. We couldn't do two spot in the spring as much. We didn't have enough guys. We've been able to do more two spot, so that's helped. Darnell coming off the injury, Brock coming off the injury, Delp coming off being a mid-year, and then Reek as well did a lot more reps. He has to be able to sustain. He's developing as a special teams player. Also, that's something that he has not done as much before. But I'm always more concerned with the Reek's well-being mentally than I am his well-being just on knowing assignments and knowing what to do. And that's the most important thing, is that he feels comfortable around our team and can help us.
Kirby, you talked about last week after that first scrimmage, really wanting to see more pressure from the defensive line, the defense really as a whole. How do you feel like they did, specifically the defensive line in this scrimmage?
I would say it was an improvement, but not where it needs to be. We got a little more pressure than we did last time, but not where it needs to be in terms of affecting quarterbacks in our league.
All right, let's take the next question from Chip Towers, and then we'll go to Mike Griffith.
Yeah, Coach, overall, you've referred a couple of times to your youth of your team, and this is a very young team, obviously. At this point, you guys looking at your personnel board in there in the coach's office and not us, do you feel like what percentage or how many, kind of young guys that haven't played before do you feel like are going to have to contribute, and how confident are you in that set of people?
Well, it all depends on injuries during the year. As it is now, we'll have, and I don't know what you define as young. If you just mean the freshman class, probably half of them will have to play a role, whether that's special teams or a backup or a substitution role when they go in and play. Some of them may start. But if you talk about young players, like guys that didn't play last year, they're going to have to play more this year. There's certainly even a larger number. You get up into 45, 50% of our roster would be freshmen and sophomores playing that actually have to go play. So anytime you have that, you're susceptible to lack of experience mistakes, anxiety mistakes, composure mistakes. So we try to create situations in practice to make them want to do right as much as they can and feel like they're in a game, so that when they're in the game, they can just relax and go play. But there's a lot of those guys that are going to help us. I think more and more we're finding every year there's more freshmen that have to play and contribute.
Yeah, Kirby, I know this is always fluid, and the quarterback competition, I know you've established Stetson's the guy pretty much no matter what. As far as the battle for number 2, how does that look, and how are those guys progressing?
Yeah, like I've said all camp, all 3 quarterbacks are doing an excellent job. I mean, I'm so pleased with the progression of those guys, all the way down to Gunner, who hasn't had as many reps in our system or in general as Brock and Carson have. And we try to have a lot of 2-spot where I feel like Gunner's getting reps and getting work, but there's times where, like in the scrimmage, you don't have 2 scrimmages going on. So there's 3 quarterbacks on the sideline. At our practices, I'd say 80% of the time there's 2 quarterbacks on the field. because we're doing multiple things. So that helps the development of those guys. Certainly Carson and Brock are ahead of where Gunner is, and both those guys they're different, but they both play winning football, do an incredible job of understanding. They both took reps, some with the ones today in preparation, and they continue to get better.
We'll take next question from Seth Emerson and then to Mark Weiser.
Kirby, but and Pops both did not have their senior year of high school to play football yet. It seems like they came here and, they haven't suffered from it. Is there like a common thread there of it made them work harder or what? How did they both kind of do well despite not playing the entire year?
And out at the beginning, Seth, so I know Pop and I know your question, but I didn't hear who the second one. I'm assuming you're talking about Brock.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, the tale of two players there, that one played in, I don't know if he started, but he played a bunch against Clemson. Maybe he did start. I don't remember the first play, but Brock certainly made some plays and did some things in the Clemson game right away and had no really acclimatization problems there, but he came spring. Pop was a different scenario. He didn't play a senior year, but he also didn't come in that spring, and he was a little bit heavier, a little out of shape. So it impacted Pop much different than it impacted Brock. And I think that had to do with not having spring practice and not being able to sustain quite as much. So, anytime you can play your senior year, you're going to be better off because you don't have played football. Unfortunately, Brock didn't get that opportunity to. But he did get an opportunity to get 15 practices and probably 100 walkthroughs with our team in the spring, which helped him play early. Pop would have really probably struggled to play for us last year because he didn't play high school football senior and because he didn't come in the spring. Obviously, we had some guys in front of him that were better.
Kirby, I'm not sure how much you want to expand on kind of the number 2 or 3 quarterbacks with Beck and Vandegrift in terms of what you've seen from them this preseason. And the other thing I wanted to ask you was about the Oregon matchup in terms of the scheduling philosophy of those kind of games with the changing nature of college football with, conference expansion and maybe 9-game schedule. How does that fit into your scheduling philosophy?
Talking about the quarterbacks, I pretty much hit on that earlier. I think both those guys have done an incredible job. They're going to be really good quarterbacks, and they understand our system at a high level. They've been through multiple springs. They're both playing winning football, and I'm pleased with both of them's growth. So I continue to get them more opportunities because you're trying to evaluate them as a 1 more than you are as a 2 or 3, because sometimes the offensive line changes when you do that. As far as scheduling philosophy, it's never changed for us. You look at it as if we make decisions right now for right now. Decisions made for this year and next year were made a long time ago. And it's always been my philosophy to go play a quality opponent, a Power 5 opponent, a big matchup. I don't care if it's home and home. I don't care if it's neutral site. Go play a good team because I really believe that helps your team get better. And when you play in the SEC, you're going to run the gauntlet anyway. What's one more team playing a really tough physical team? We don't run from that at Georgia. I embrace that. Our fans want that. I want that. I think that generates a lot more excitement. I think you recruit off of that when you go and you get to sell opening the game and playing in big time venues. So I think that's important. But as far as the philosophy with us playing more SEC games, if that happens, then so be it. It's not going to change our philosophy of what we do non-conference. We had already moved to that before the realignment and all the things going on. We were already trying to schedule 3 big games a year, and that's just the way we think it's best.
Thank you.
Take the next question from Palmer Toms, and then we'll go to Allison at WSB.
Hey, Kirby, wanted to know how y'all came out of today's scrimmage injury-wise. The guys that didn't scrimmage last weekend, were they able to go today? And were there any other injuries that could have happened today?
Yeah, we had some nicks and bumps and bruises today. I don't know the outcome of all those yet. Kieris got I think it's an ankle or Achilles was bothering him. So about halfway through the scrimmage, we thought he could have gone. He thought he could have gone, but we ended up holding him the back half of the scrimmage. Kendall did not go today again, although he's much better than he was. He's really close to being full speed. Having not practiced, we weren't going to put him back out there because he didn't practice for the scrimmage, but he should be back full speed. Ernest Green is still struggling with a upper leg injury. Trying to think who else. That's all I can really think of. If anybody you want to ask about, I'll tell you. I can't think of anybody else.
Ryan Davis, Denali Morissette.
Ryan Davis did scrimmage today. It was really his first day back. He's been able to get up around 80-90% velocity on the speed, and he was able to go a little bit today. Didn't take many snaps. Tramel Walthour scrimmage today. He was able to go today and do some things. And then Denali is back running, hitting about 70-80%, but he didn't scrimmage. So he did routes on air, he did Indy, he did all the drill work. But we expect to get him back next week.
And notice that Brett Seither has been in a black jersey this fall. What's his status? What's his injury?
Yeah, he's had his back's been bothering him, and we've done a lot of work with him on that. And he scrimmaged today. He did fine. He got some reps and did some work, but he's been in and out.
Hey, Kirby, going back to the backup quarterback competition, just as a coach, when do you like to have that spot solidified? Like kind of have your number 2 guy, or is that kind of a rotating position?
Well, they're different. You know, they're two different guys. So they each possess different parts of what Stetson does well. So, you know, the thought process is there is you want to find out who's the best guy, who gives you the best opportunity to win, who are you playing, what are the packages you're running, what are you carrying that week with Stetson, how does it fit those two guys with each one. But they continue to do a good job. You know, Carson's taken more of a body of work of the twos reps than Brock has, but they've both done a tremendous job, and they're both going to be ready to go.
Okay, let's take the next question from Ryan Curley, and then we'll go to Parth Patel.
Hey, Kirby, outside of maybe some of the older guys on the defense like Nolan Smith and Christopher Smith, is there anyone that's kind of taken a leadership responsibility over the course of this offseason and spring and fall?
Yeah, Jalen Carter's done a great job. Pop has done a tremendous job. Tresman Marshall has. Keely Ringo has. Kamari Lasker has. There's several guys that have stepped up and really taken on some of that responsibility, and even Robert Bill. You know, he's a guy of many words, but he's certainly been around here a long time. Will Poole is a guy. We got some guys that they know how to do it. They've seen it done right. They haven't been the feature player, but they understand how to lead, and they've seen it done the right way.
Hey, Coach, I just wanted to ask about kind of the growth you saw today in today's scrimmage with regards to leaders stepping up on the field. I know you mentioned for the last scrimmage, you kind of wanted to see more from your leaders. Kind of what was that growth like today?
Well, we talk a long time about connection. Connection is one of our 4 DNA traits, and we always talk about connection is seen or heard through language and touch. So if you want to like visually see connection, you gotta touch somebody, you gotta high five somebody, you gotta celebrate with somebody, you gotta be connected, and you see that through what you say. And I don't think you can be real connected if you don't have great energy and focus. So if you're like have good energy and you have focus to what you're working on, that usually creates good connection. And I thought we had more moments later in the scrimmage. Like last week, it just flattened out. This week, it was more of a upward. It got better as the scrimmage went in terms of energy and juice, which at least lets me know I think they're in better shape.
Hey, let's see if David Pascal has a question, and then we'll go to Sarah Spencer.
Hey, Kirby, I know you addressed Arian last week. I'm curious, when's the last time you felt like you had a completely healthy group of receivers, and what is it about that position? Is it the volume of running, the plays in space? Why do injuries kind of lend themselves so much at receiver, do you think?
Well, they're the highest soft tissue injuries, which his is not, but you know, you tend to have a lot of soft tissue injuries at that position because of volume of running and you know, scholarship quota, you know, numbers. What is your scholarship number at that position? We've had years that we thought 12 was the number, 13 was the number, 10 was the number, and you know, we brought more into camp this year, I think we ever have. I want to say we brought 18, not scholarship, but 18 in our 105 number. And you know, it's hard to keep up when you 2-spot things and you work things. You're always looking for extra legs to cut the volume on those guys. We actually cut volume on the top 4 guys this camp than we have last camps, just in learning that, hey, let's don't work these guys too hard, and let's keep the volume down on those guys. But some of the injuries are not, you know, you don't control not soft tissue. And like Aaron's situation, it's just football, and it happens from time to time. Number one thing we can do is have more depth at the position and not have to count on freshmen, which every year that I've been here, we've had, freshmen almost lead us in receiving.
Hey, Kirby. I know you've mentioned that Kenny McIntosh is having a really good camp for y'all. What has impressed you most about him and what he's been doing in camp?
Well, his work ethic, he's always been a worker, but he was in the shadows of those other guys. And now he steps up, he leads, he pushes guys. He's got better stamina. There were times where he get tired in practice in the past. He might be, gassed and taking reps. Now he's the fresh guy. He can go cover a punt. He can run routes out of the backfield. He's elusive. He has to work really hard on his weight to maintain his weight. And I think it's really important he can stay above that 205, 210 mark for bulk and protecting himself. But he's had the best camp he's ever had by far in terms of no mental lapses, picking up pressures. He's done a tremendous job.
All right, let's go to Jack Leo and then to Clay Watkins.
Hey, Kirby, can you just talk about maybe who impressed the most, specifically at offensive skill positions in the secondary today in scrimmage?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to single anybody out without watching. I hate to say that. I mean, there was nobody that just, Dom made a nice play. The young guys at wideout continue to step up. I thought that Stetson did a good job, getting the ball out to those guys, but it probably wasn't as good an explosive offensive day as it was last time, which is probably a good thing for the defense. I thought a couple guys on the defense made some plays. Pop had some good plays. David Daniel made some good plays. Malachi Stark showed up a couple times and made plays. So, it's hard without watching the tape to say anybody just stood out over somebody else.
There, Coach Smart. Just curious to know about how the kicking situation is going along. Obviously, a new punter situation and how Jack's obviously been there and been the starter for the past couple of years, but how Jared Zirkel's progressing as well.
Yeah, I thought both those guys kicked off really well. I got to check the numbers. I mean, I don't know the hangs and distances, but just watching it off the foot and seeing it in the air, I thought they really kicked off well. Field goals, we got to continue to work on. I thought we had great effort on both sides, protection and rush, which is critical for us defensively and protection wise. I thought that Thorson hit some good punts. We didn't necessarily, we punted situationally today where we were trying to pin some kicks inside the 10 and working on some different things. So it wasn't about the distance, if you know what I mean. It was more about directional and trying to work on some different things. But I thought all those guys continue to get better.
All right, we got time for two more questions. So let's just open it up if anyone has a quick follow-up.
Coach, this is Chip. Just wondering about, obviously Oregon's 2 weeks away in terms of just preparation for that team specifically. How much are you getting into it at this point, if at all?
No, we don't touch it just yet. I mean, we would be kind of reassessing our team and our roster, stacking the roster. We're going to look at some numbers and say, if we had to go on the road in the SEC, who are the 70, who are the 80, who are the 85, where those numbers fall, what are the decisions we got to make? If we're not taking that guy, then we're taking that guy. We got a lot of things to look at in the next day or two as the players get a little recovery time. We'll start working kind of coaches on Oregon in the next couple of days, but not with the players until later in the week. And we'll work on some future opponents we got before the off week in the coming days, just so we have a little bit of a history there when we get ready to play them.
Kirby, I know you've talked about a freshman wall before during the season. Do you see that at all during fall camp and preseason practice, or do you feel like those young guys are starting to get comfortable in their places and come into their own?
Yeah, everyone's different. We've definitely got some freshmen that have hit a wall right now, and they're like, golly, this camp is a grind, and it's the most physical, toughest practices they've ever gone through. It's part of being at Georgia. I have multiple scouts and different people that come to practice and say, man, coach, y'all practice with great energy, great toughness. Your kids get after it. And you don't realize that when they're telling you that, they go other places, and you realize that, man, these freshmen, the bar is huge for them to jump from where they used to practice to how we're practicing. And that can be overwhelming. And sometimes those guys hit a funk, hit a wall, and you have to do a good job of coaches to encourage them, because some of those guys have run through the wall and are going to help us immediately. Other ones are seeing writing on the wall and they're like, man, it ain't my turn yet. But I've got to continue to develop to get better. And that's what separates, great staffs and coaches from average. You got to bring those kids along because they're the future of your roster.
Thanks, Coach Smart.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the weekend.